Jeffrey Epstein has the reputation as one of the most mysterious and hideous criminals in modern-day history. But did you know that Jeffrey Epstein's story is just the tip of a hidden iceberg? Today, we're breaking down Whitney Webb's explosive tweet that exposes the secret ties between transgenerational crime, covert intelligence, and the digital surveillance revolution. You won't believe the network lurking behind the headlines. Today, we're breaking down a recent tweet from investigative journalist Whitney Webb. In her thread, she clears up common misconceptions about her work, especially around her reporting on Jeffrey Epstein and the evolving issues of technocracy. The most compelling part of Webb's lengthy tweet reads, "One thing I'd like to clarify is that my books do not make the claim that Epstein was Mossad. The book instead argues that Epstein was an important part of a network, though arguably middle management, for a group composed of transgenerational organized crime interests, most of whom are the remnant of the Jewish mob component of the National Crime Syndicate, and who promote ethno-fascist policies, including via their ethnically focused philanthropy, among other activities, and major factions within both American and Israeli intelligence. They are not synonymous with either intelligence agency, but arguably dominate the leadership of those intelligence agencies. Evidence for Epstein's ties to Israeli intelligence links him with Israeli military intelligence as opposed to Mossad, which are different parts of the Israeli intelligence apparatus. For example, it would be like confusing the DIA with the CIA. However, as noted above, Epstein was ultimately working for a network that greatly influences and exerts significant control over both the US and Israel, among other places. And that network is more loyal to itself than any one nation and also involves multiple intelligence agencies. While many people do casually use Mossad as a catch-all term for Israeli intelligence, I don't agree with that, and not making the accurate distinction creates an opening for dishonest actors to discredit the work that I and others have done on this topic when not framed properly.
Well after Epstein's first arrest and before his second arrest in 2019, really it was more, it's really all about technology at this point. And a lot of the same people that had been involved with Epstein are part of this network. Like Ghislaine Maxwell's father, for example, Robert Maxwell, were involved in intelligence-linked operations to backdoor, critical infrastructure in the United States. And there's been a long history of people trying to, obtain intelligence through surreptitious means. And so sexual blackmail for a long time was part of that. But once sort of the internet and technology came to dominate, our lives in the post-2000s era, it's not really necessary to have someone doing sexual blackmail in the way that Epstein did it. It actually is much less risky for them because they don't have to pay to help maintain someone's billionaire playboy lifestyle or, maintain the data obtained from sexual blackmail parties or any of these things. And there's a lot less risk involved. Epstein himself is a great example, sort of got outed that he was doing this kind of stuff in 2007, and they try and put it back in the bottle, but they can't quite really, and then it totally explodes, roughly a decade later.
Whitney Webb expands on this idea by then tweeting, "Another thing I'd like to clarify is the implication that my historical reporting on the Epstein case is commendable, while my more current reporting on technocracy is significantly less so. My book on Epstein concludes with an entire chapter discussing how Epstein became irrelevant and thus expendable because the union of big tech with the intelligence apparatus, particularly those intelligence agencies most corrupted by the Epstein network, with a major focus on the national security contractor Palantir and its co-founder, Peter Thiel. While Ian is an admitted fan of my book, the reporting on technocracy that he describes as more of a turnoff for most than my Epstein book is actually in the book on Epstein itself and is arguably the main conclusion as it related to the present from the book. There, I note that Palantir is the privatization and recreation of a nefarious neocon project developed by top figures from the Iran-Contra scandal, and how tools like it, and its Unit 8200 developed equivalents from Israel, have amassed so much information on us and can also plant false or incriminating evidence on one's devices without their knowledge, have made the type of sex blackmail ops once practiced by Epstein and other figures mentioned in the book no longer needed or relevant. I am not sure if Ian has discussed Thiel or Palantir very much. I don't believe he has, but may be wrong on that. But a lot of my concerns about technocracy and the current administration are intimately related to both. And those concerns are very well documented in One Nation Under Blackmail, which was published even before the official confirmation of Thiel-Epstein meetings. Of course, Peter Thiel's errand boy now being vice president of the US and the many Thiel or Palantir adjacent figures in this administration make this not politically expedient to point out, particularly if the views you publicly propagate involve claiming that the current administration is a major departure from the Epstein network, which I argue, in my book as well as today, that it is likely not. In that same vein, I think it is important to push back as nicely as possible on Ian's suggestion that the Eric Prince unplugged phone seems to be a good investment for those concerned about illegal surveillance. While Ian has since described that as an offhanded comment and that he hasn't researched the phone, I think both he and everyone should know the following. Prince has a close relationship with and hired the Unit 8200 alumnus and co-founder of the Epstein and Thiel-funded and Ehud Barak-chaired Carbine 911, which seeks to harvest as much data off of your phone as possible when you call 911 and feed the same pre-crime paradigm with that data that Palantir is also seeking to develop. Carbine is discussed in my book as well. With this woman, her name is Lita Lesham, Prince has developed a very suspect company to funnel technology and products developed by foreign military/intelligence, in this case Israel, to the US military, creating a loophole for acquisition of what would normally be forbidden products for the US military. In addition, the unplugged phone itself was also developed by Unit 8200 alumni. This is significant as Israel has an admitted policy of using companies created by former Unit 8200 operatives as fronts for activities Unit 8200 and Mossad once conducted in-house. For anyone concerned about sex blackmail, Israeli intelligence espionage and/or pre-crime, stay as far away from this phone as possible.